Welcome back to the Hiding for Horrors podcast, where we review horror movies and horror movie franchises. I'm Mark,
I'm Tawan.
and today we have gathered together to rank the movies in the Sleepaway Camp franchise. Now, some of you might be thinking, wait, you guys skipped one. You guys skipped Sleepaway Camp 5. We did and we didn't technically, because technically the movie exists, technically it doesn't. Sleepaway Camp 5, The Lone Survivor is a movie that was made in the early 90s that was canceled after a few shoots. It was a direct sequel to the third one. It didn't have Pamela Springsteen. It had some new actors who had amnesia, and the character was running around not knowing if she was Angela. But spoiler alert, she was Angela. It was mostly a clip show. It had like the greatest kid kills from from all the three previous movies being presented as like flashbacks to this new mysterious woman as she remembers that she's Angela. This movie is not on streaming anywhere. You can't buy it anywhere. I did some research. Even the Dead Meat podcast skipped that one because it's pretty much just a replay. Besides like a couple like new insert shots of this woman running around in a swimsuit with a knife, you don't really have any new footage. So since we couldn't find it, we couldn't watch it to review it. So here we are. We are ranking the four movies we were able to see from worst to best, per usual. So, Tuan, why don't you kick us off and tell us what's in your fourth spot for the Sleepaway Camp ranking?
In my fourth spot, which definitely was the worst of the bunch, will be the fourth movie, or Return to Sleepaway Camp. I I did not enjoy that watch. It was such a weird movie, and it definitely hmm, it definitely didn't feel like. Let me try to rephrase that. I think, like, when watching it, and I kind of mentioned it during the episode, is that it felt like something the director wanted to do, since he didn't get to do, the original second and third movies of the like trilogy, and it just felt like something that, like, he wanted to do as, like, more like a vanity project, instead of wanting to make like an actual good movie. And I know, it takes time to mix movies. Like, you put a lot of put a lot of effort into that type of thing, but this just really didn't come together. Even though he was able to get like three of the original actors from the first movie to come back, including Angela, one of the camp counselors who was older, and then the cousin of Angela. Like, they were all able to come back. They really didn't fit, especially the cousin. The acting there was not good, but honestly, overall, the acting wasn't as good like this time around. Like, in general, it really just felt like they went into certain takes and picked whatever was the first one and went with that. So didn't really enjoy that. I would say the only thing that was kind of good-ish or okay-ish about it were some of the kills, and that was just some of them were, things I hadn't seen before. I will say, like, for a slasher movie, if the kills are inventive, or things that I may not have seen before, um, like, I kind of like those sequences. So that part of it was good. But once we got to the end, we got the reveal. Um, it I was about to say it was, like, it was maybe surprising, but not 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 in the sense that I expected what was going to happen, but more so in the sense that we kind of got this already in the first one. And not saying you can't rehash or reuse the ideas, because that's like all of media. They do it all the time, but it just didn't feel earned this time around. Whereas, in the first one, the progress of events and the way they kind of wanted us to focus on the one, like, kid who was a part of the camp, who was getting bullied but was also a bully at the same time. Like, that whole thing, that whole shtick was weird. and really didn't come into fruition at all. And it was kind of, they were trying to felt like they were trying to make it seem as if he was the killer, but it never seemed that way. Like it never gave that energy that he was the killer. So yeah, Return.
Well, for me, my number four pick is also The Return of Sleepaway Camp. For all the reasons that you said. But more so for me is that yes, Pamela Springsteen wasn't the original um Angela, but she's the Angela that like gave us personality and gave us character because that original Angela was just like quiet and just sat to the side and didn't do anything, didn't say anything. She wasn't an active character. She was very just like passive. Like there was nothing there. So to bring that back, ignoring what we had, what made the second two movies, the second and third movie good in any sort of way was kind of just like a, I don't know. It just didn't gel. And again, like I hate it when directors or writers come back and like, well, I didn't make those other sequels, so I'm going to ignore them. But it's like, those sequels worked for a reason, and just because you weren't on them, doesn't mean that we should ignore them. And like, and then you do that, and and what you give us isn't any better. Like, so you did all that for no reason. So yeah, Return to Sleepaway Camp is also on my number four. Okay, but going into my number three spot, I'm gonna do something that I haven't done since my original ranking episode when we ranked Halloween. I'm gonna tie for my second spot, actually, is gonna be Sleepaway Camp 2 and 3. Because for me, it's the same movie. It's interchangeable. Like there's not much difference there. Like some of the acting is acting is less when it comes to Sleepaway Camp 3, but like it's still the same. Not much is different, not much has changed. So I can't really like separate the two when they're both on par with each other from the acting, from the direction to the script. Like it's the same fucking movie and I don't see it any different way. So for me, they both take my second spot, which I guess technically puts Return to Sleepaway Camp in number three instead of four. So what about you, Tawan? What's gonna be in your third spot?
So yeah, number three for me is gonna be the third movie. Um, yeah, that one it was just like kind of like what you mentioned. It was really a lot more of the same that we got with number two, but even less making sense this time around. Like this time, Angela took the spot of another like of another camper that should have been there. Which I will say, the opening scene though, when she ran her over with that truck, that was actually pretty funny because it was so out of left field. I was not expecting that. Honestly, I thought that was going to be a dream sequence for whoever that was, and it wasn't. And that made it even funnier. Like honestly, that felt like something out of like a Nightmare on Elm Street movie where the where the dream sequence would be that. um, but yeah, that whole movie just basically felt like retreading, but instead of Angela being a counselor, this time she was a camper, and nothing nothing of value was really given in the movie because at least with the second one, I'll give it's a little bit of credit. They were kind of painting Angela a certain way and how she felt about people, and and especially like girls and the way they should act and that type of deal. And that was kind of like her catalyst for like picking her victims based on their doings. But in this one, it was just like give Angela a group of teens to kill, and that was kind of it. Which that it does fit slasher logic for a lot of for like based on like history of like slasher movies in a way that a lot of them are, but I don't think we spent enough time with Angela outside, like to kind of get there. Like we know with Jason, they come near Jason's area of the woods, they're gonna probably die. With Freddy, he chooses the group and he affects their dreams, all that stuff. They're probably gonna die. But with Angela, in the second one, it was like the whole thing of them being pure and doing like that whole deal. But when it came to this one, it kind of just felt like, all right, we're gonna make a sequel. Let's put Angela somewhere where she has a group to kill, and yeah, that was kind of it. That's what it felt like to me. And once again, I will say some of the kills were good here, which probably my most consistent take out of all these are the kills throughout most of these movies are pretty good. Um, or they have like certain things that I may not have seen in other movies. So I will give it that part, but um, same critique as I had with Return to Sleepaway Camp. Acting that was not really a strong suit here, and not saying that you have to be like they have to have like the most like strong like portrayals and things of that matter in like movies like this, and not saying we also have to accept less, but there has to be like a good middle ground. And also, if it's gonna be that kind of middle ground and you want to go in like a campy or campish tone, like the jokes or some of the punchlines or certain things have to land, which I feel like it wasn't really doing so in this one. And it just kind of felt like a waste of a movie. Like as Mark mentioned, it's a bit interchangeable with the other one, but as going into my second spot, which is the second movie, I kind of feel it was a bit more in that one. And since Mark already said like his number two was a tie, I'll just go to my number two, which is the second movie. Um, we got we got the return of Angela in this one, played by a different actress. I mean, she wasn't the best for me, but she was the one who was selling her role the most and felt like she was the most into it out of everyone. Everybody else kind of felt like they were phoning it in. I know some of them were like kids or teens, so like not to be like too harsh on those like actors, but um yeah, the rest of them were really coming together, but Angela in this one was she was fun. I can't even lie. They were like really there were some parts where her little jokes were hitting, and it was actually pretty funny to me. So that whole aspect of it was like pretty decent. But as I just mentioned, we got a little more reasoning for the madness, I guess you could say, with this one, as far as like Angela's mindset and why she was doing what she was doing, at least in terms of this movie. And that's kind of what I felt was missing from the third one, where it just felt like we were just plopping slasher villain in a group so that they can rack up a kill count. And it was honestly like a more progress over time with this one, especially with how Angela was covering things up too, and just how incompetent the people at the camp were, as far as her quote unquote sending people home or their parents picking them up without the owners or the other counselors, nobody else knowing. Like you're telling me this is the only girl that's seen these people before they're supposedly getting sent home. Like where are the precautions? Like where's the paperwork? It just it just really showed lack of incompetence on like their part within the movie. Outside of that, yeah, the progress of events like went a bit slower until we got like near the like the third act, and all bets were off, and Angela just took out everybody at that point, and you know she racked up a pretty good little kill count in this one. I think if I had to give like a best little moment from it, probably would be when she was, I forget the name of the camper, but she was in the cabin talking to the camper who was kind of pointing out that all these people went home, but when she
Oh,
called
the
their
black
parent,
girl.
yes. That moment,
Poor
and then
baby.
you just see Angela around the room trying to pick what she's gonna kill her with, like little stuff like that.
I
That was
need
actually funny.
I needed that girl to be more aware of her surroundings. Like, do you not see her getting stuff ready for you?
No, for real. Like everything, like that, like little moments like that are really funny. Like stuff, like physical gags will like always be funny. So that type of thing definitely got me. That was pretty good there. Um, Outside of that, though, uh, I probably I probably would watch this one again over the other two sequels. Not saying it would be a frequent watch, but I probably might come back to it for a little chuckle, something in the background.
Well, for me, I would say for my number one spot, it's kind of obvious. It's the OG Sleepaway Camp. Um, Not saying that this movie's perfect, but it it was campy goodness and campy stupidity, and I quite enjoyed having all of the like actual kids there. It kind of just gave it a little bit more. It just made it more like real. Like they're actually at a camp. These kids are actually here having fun. You get the sense that they come to this camp every year. They know each other, and the kills are really good. And I mean that final shot, that final shot is iconic. A little controversial, but iconic. So for me, Sleepaway Camp One gets the number one spot. What about you, Tuan?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the only thing left. So I definitely agree. We got the same thing going here with the first one being in the first spot. And I mean, it was kind of obvious. I feel like none of the ones um, after um, surpassed the first one at all. So it was kind of a given that this would be the best out of all of them, and really the only one that anyone talks about. When anybody talks about the series Sleepaway Camp, I've barely seen anyone mention past the first one. Like, and this was my first time, watching all of them. I've known about the first one before, and I think I probably may have seen it like kill count or video on it prior to watching it, so I knew what was going to happen. But besides that, um, everything leading up to the eventual twist like felt pretty generic, and I think I mentioned this when we did in the original review, but if we really didn't have that twist per se, there wouldn't have been much else going on. So kind of having that twist near the end really saved the movie in a way. And I'm glad for it because it gave us that like iconic moment of that reveal and everything that came up to it. But the build up was really um, it was feeling like very generic of who the killer could possibly be, and I think without what we got towards the end of it, it wouldn't have been as effective as what we got there. And especially ending it on just that scene and not getting anything else afterwards, um that was a pretty good way to like close out that movie. Probably my main one of my main gripes a bit was the aunt in general, just because that actress was she was hamming it up a lot in her couple scenes that she had, and it was really really strong, and it felt like that was the intentional choice, or they just didn't give her enough takes. But yeah, that felt off in that sense. But outside of that, everything else was pretty good here. The kills were good, as Mark mentioned. Having the actual kids there did make it feel like an actual like camping or camping experience. So I thought that was fine. Getting the just the way that everybody like interacted and talked to each other, it felt very natural in that sense, and I think that's what kind of added to it, which the other ones didn't afterwards. They kind of felt, a bit forced in a way, especially in Teenage Wasteland. That one felt so forced with the dialogue and things that they were like having the characters doing that one. But this one, they felt like they were actual kids. And I get in Teenage Wasteland, they were supposed to be like troubled youth, but they were still like caricaturish. It didn't really feel like natural at all. So I think overall, given our options, this will be the de facto best.
Well, there you have it. We have given our ranking for the Sleepaway Camp franchise. We have closed a chapter on another franchise. Now, I somewhat enjoyed this franchise, doing this little thing because we haven't done a good slasher franchise in a long time, and I'm not gonna spoil it now, but our next franchise is gonna be our next two franchises are gonna be good. But before we get there, we have a couple more movies that we're going to be reviewing. And up next, we're going to be reviewing Substance, a brand new movie that just came out this year. Tawana and I saw it together in theaters. It was an interesting movie, and we will have a lot to say about it. So join us next week for The Substance. But until then, good night.
If you like this episode, please be sure to check out some from the Haddonfield Horror Cemetery, where we've covered big franchises such as Friday the 13th, Halloween, and Saw, or one-off reviews like The Blackening or Hereditary. You can follow Haddonfield Horrors on Instagram and TikTok, where the host posts updates and mini reviews. Full episodes are available on several podcasting platforms, including Spotify as well as YouTube. If you're listening to us on YouTube, please be sure to like and subscribe. The Haddonfield Horrors podcast is produced by Mark Smart, Tawan Griffin, and Elian Cordova, themed by Lethal Injection, and edited by Mark Smart.
The Haddonfield Horror Podcast is a Letter to Media production.
Should we do an intro?